Hello and welcome to this month's Gnosis Strong video. So this month's Strong is of Witch Hunter Akitsui, I'm calling it. We'll see later on in this video that I try a lot of different stuff with this Strong, trying to do some true black shading on it and get that nice dark fantasy feel with it. We'll have to see how it turns out. I think it was certainly a very long and rough attempt at getting that down. I think the final drawing did turn out well, but it was a long process. So I'm thinking maybe in time we'll see my style refine a bit more and I could get faster with it. But until then, this is kind of going to be one of those first attempt style drawings, and so we'll see me start to struggle and try and figure stuff out a lot with that. Pretty quick. I say pretty quick here, but in a few minutes here. It's a nice time-lapse drawing, so it won't be. It was hours for me, but it'll be like a few minutes for you. So, with this past weekend being Mother's Day, I thought I'd like to share some stories about my mom. And kind of the wonderful woman that she has been in my life and in the life of her family and friends. So the best place I think to start with talking about how great of a mom has been was to go back before she was mom. So back when she was the middle child of three daughters, and as a middle child, surprisingly, she really didn't cause that much problems. Our own middle child in our family didn't cause any problems either, so maybe that's where the pattern comes from. But no, as a youngster, she was very athletic. She got really good grades, so she was smart, or at least school smart. I think some people will argue on that, but she went to university on a academic scholarship, so I think that probably counts for something of being rather smart. For the most part, she was a very well-behaved kid. She really didn't cause any problems. Her teenage rebellion basically capped at my grandma was really big about being on time to stuff, and so my mom would deliberately be late. Like, she'd just wait outside the house for like 5-10 minutes before going in just to bother my mom. So that's where her teenage rebellion really peaked at, or at least as far as as she's told me, was, oh no, I was intentionally late to stuff. So yeah, so that's kind of her. I guess you could say her great sin is deliberately bothering her mom. But what teenager probably doesn't do that? And if that's where it caps, that's like, all right, that's probably a burden that could be borne. She worked. One of the things I don't know if I say was unique to her, but maybe was I guess maybe unique when compared to her sisters, is she went and got a summer job so she could buy her first car. And I always mix it up, but I think the first car she bought was a 56 or 57 Chevy that I can't remember if my grandpa painted it pink for her, or if it came or if it was already pink. But that was her car, and I actually remember this car. So she had it long after high school and college, and even I was born. Probably, and even Fluffy had my brother. So she had this car for a very long time. And there's only a few stories I remember from her teenage years with it, or her younger years, where before she could go off to college, she first had to rotate the tires on her car to show her dad she knew how to do it, and I think change the oil. So he was going to make sure that she was well prepared for any road problems and able to maintain the car on her own before she was allowed to leave home. So going off to college, she it's not like she caused any problems, because she really didn't, up there. I'm just trying to find a good way to kind of how she ended up meeting my dad. So she met my dad where I think it was like an Asian history class or something like that she was taking. And sitting kind of across the room for her was, she thought was this really cute guy with blonde hair and such. And so she was trying to get his attention by like fluttering her eyelashes at him and different stuff like that. And he just didn't notice. He was too busy taking notes. My dad had done his mission in Korea. So he took Asian history or whatever this class was, as he figured, well, this, I'm already somewhat familiar with it. So this is I have to take like some kind of class in this curriculum. So maybe this will be the easiest for me. So that's what he was there for. He was there to try and pass this class that he had to take. So he wasn't going to pay any attention to the cute girl trying to get his attention. And so her plans eventually evolved more into trying to exit the door at the same time as him, so to get that timing down, and trying to talk with him. And I can't remember how they actually got talking, or what it was, if they were like in a study group or something like that. She got into a study group with him, but eventually they did start dating. And as she said, he was easy to spot across campus or wherever it may be, because he walked with a bit of a swagger. So my dad certainly then looked like a surfer dude. He was from San Diego, California. I had to think how to try and say that. I mean, I've been doing these videos for a little over a year, so you think I would have gotten a little bit better at it, but no. I think this is just going to always be something I'm going to struggle with. But hey, that's okay. I'm a webcomic guy. I'm not a talker or a podcast guy, so at least we got that to guarantee my comic stuff. But yeah, so yeah, she said that that just kind of what drew her to him, is that he seemed to have kind of a bit of a light about him and glow whenever he would walk into the room, and he walked with a swagger. So they started dating, and it was like on one of their earlier dates or whatnot, that they were out with a group and they were kind of like walking around campus or something like that, and he jumped up on a bench just to be silly or something like that, and my mom just goes, "Nice butt." So that of course caught him off guard, and I attribute my sense of I guess a bit of my sense of humor or my off-color nature. I think that all comes from my mom. That we have a very similar sense in being off-color with stuff occasionally. My dad is not like that at all. So he's very I guess you could say clever with his sense of humor. Like he enjoys puns, a bit of obscure references, and wit with his jokes and such, and creativity. And my mom, she enjoys those too, obviously, but she'll throw in a bit of off-color nature. So I got quite a potent mix of both of those, which I think, in a funny way, has kind of come back to haunt her a little bit, like with Gnosis, because I think I've mentioned this before. I've gotten comments from her from time to time about how the females look or certain story beats or whatnot, and I think this also goes back into with Gratz as well. But so that's just kind of funny. I don't know if she is aware of this, and by the time she listens to this, yeah, she'll be aware of it. That's where I attribute a lot of my I guess off-color nature, or more of a skate side, if one wants to call it, in my art, that it comes from her. Not from this story in particular, but just from her in general, which is really, really weird, because it's not like she was really a bad person or really fooled around or anything like that. Famously, she was actually very ignorant on on a lot of stuff. She she told me a story that when she was in high school, well, yeah, that when she was in high school, some guy thought he was such a charmer and that he was going to get her, but she just nah, didn't work. She just wasn't interested in that type of life and at all or whatnot. So it just wasn't something that she ever done. So very much, I guess you could say she was. I think a Kitsui might come a lot from her. I want to say, yeah, kind of personality wise, a bit like her and such. I guess you could say the absolute flirtation and love for her husband, but not, just fooling around with anyone. So, yeah, I think that's just kind of an little interesting insight into how she's influenced some of I say my works and such. I think that's definitely a little. I know that sounds a little strange. I'm trying to figure out as I explain it, and that's certainly coming out rough. But basically, I guess you could say something I picked up probably from her would be the absolute love for your spouse, and never let the fire go out of your marriage. And so that's something that in my own life, in my own marriage, I would want to have, and so something that's kind of been reflected in Gnosis. So there you go. The jumping up on the bench, having a nice butt comment, like 40 years later or whatever it is, has come back to create this horrible amalgamation of a situation and characters and whatnot that is both that I think is both inspiring and haunting for her. So yeah, there you go. So that's a wonderful little mess and tidbit that just had to try and piece through there with that. So my parents actually didn't get married, I say right away or pretty quickly. My mom actually got engaged to another guy for a while. And she said that it was needed, that she had a lot she had to learn during that time being engaged and about herself. And she did. It was a very important learning and growing experience for her. But she feels like, but eventually the engagement broke off, and she started dating my dad again, and felt like that was how it was supposed to happen. Not that my dad was second place or anything like that, but just say, hey, you need to learn some stuff and improve yourself in some way so you can get first place, all right, by marrying my dad or this other guy. So it was kind of a weird learning weird and necessarily crash course in improving herself, so she could be a better wife for my dad, but also a good mom for us kids. And so when she was dating my dad, they were up playing in the snow. I can't remember if they were skiing or not. And they were hiding in some trees from a snowcat that was going by. And for those who don't know, a snowcat is a big kind of snow machine that will level out snow for like the ski resorts and snowboard resorts and such like that. So they're hiding in some trees as one went by, and she turned around and he was down on his knee and proposed to her. He didn't have a ring or anything at the time. It was kind of a spur of the moment that they both knew that they wanted to get married and had talked about it, but he felt like, well, now's the time, I have to do it. So he just did, and when they came out of that trees, they were engaged. And so that was then the first step that would eventually lead on to mom becoming mom. Now, one of the great things, or best qualities I'd say about my mom, is that she loved being a mom. All right, there's something that she wanted to do, And the first little baby she had was a tiny little thing with really big blue eyes and a long tongue. And I can't remember the name of that baby. I don't think it had a name. So we'll just go ahead and skip over that thing. We're kind of lacking a name for him. It was me. I was the oldest. I was the cute little thing. And she said that I was a very easy baby. That I wasn't too needy or grumpy and such. And which is kind of funny because since I was the first, she didn't quite know what to expect all the time. One thing she certainly didn't expect is that she took me to my parents and me went to the zoo once when I was little, and there was a caiman exhibit, and in this zoo, and I'm standing up against a glass looking at the alligators. My mom, I'm up there with my dad, and she's standing far back. So my mom has a fear of alligators. It's just a irrational fear. She doesn't entirely know why she has it, but she just has a fear of alligators. So she wasn't too excited to be in there, but I was. I was just having a fun old time looking at the alligators, and this big old caiman swims right up to the glass and opens its mouth right where I'm at. Well, she didn't hesitate. She rushed forward, snatched me up, and ran out of the building. That caiman wasn't going to get through the big old glass and get to me. And she was kind of grumpy at my dad. Like, you just didn't do anything. You would have let that thing eat him. I would say that she wasn't too grumpy, but she was going to make sure I was safe. So that's just a funny little thing there. That of all the stuff that could have happened, it was her greatest fear coming to eat her sweet little big-eyed long-tongued baby. And I suppose I should explain the long-tongue thing. That my tongue's a little bit bigger for my mouth than it needs to be, which is part of why I sound the way that I do. A lot of people, when I was growing up, thought that I was foreign, that I came from like Germany or somewhere like that, because they say, well, it sounds like you have an accent. Nope, I just got the big mush mouth, or whatever you want to call it. So as a baby, this meant that it was quite normal for my tongue to be kind of poking out of my mouth, making just for a very cute picture. But yeah, that's kind of just a lot of how that gone on. Made for a really cute baby, really weird sounding adult. So that's just some fun little, I guess, hidden lore on me there. And probably, it's been like a year since I do it. I should probably have explained. Yeah, this is why I sound as strange as I do. Is because I got this big old muscle in my mouth that creates problems with how I speak. So, if I was a easy baby, my brother, Fluffyhead, was not an easy baby. And it's not like he was a bad kid, really. He was just I'd say a little hectic, maybe a little grumpy, for a good while, but certainly a crazy one. Like he loved to be held upside down. That was his preferred method of being held upside down. So his feet were up by your head and his head was down by your waist, and that's just how he wanted to be held. And once when my mom was holding him, I think he started wiggling or whatnot, and he escaped and fell into a trash can. And so, I mean, nothing in there that hurt him, but it certainly lent itself to a lot of good jokes. That yep, you were always a trouble kid and a garbage baby, and he's not really. Out of all of us, he's doing pretty well. It's a pretty good one. He's got the Fluffyhead's the one with the sweet little girl. Hair muncher, who I actually watched just this past weekend, and she's an adorable little thing. Certainly doesn't take after him, which is a good thing, except she's smart like he is, and so that's going to be a problem down the line. She's smart and adorable. It's like, oh, darn it, she's rolling that charisma intelligence build. She's going to be a pickle when she's older. So yeah, that's I guess kind of something funny with Fluffy Head and my mom, that he was a crazy little thing, and he was actually the first of her kids to say "I hate you" to her. And I don't know if he really knew what it meant at the time, but it hurt her. She after he said that and slammed the door, she went and cried. She said, "He hates me. I'm such a bad mom." And now, whenever someone says that to her, she's like, "Yeah, whatever. You're just angry." But yeah, so like I said, me being a very easy baby, that kind of tied into not so much problems down the line, but just the comparison of what a more grumpy or wild child would be like, as opposed to the more docile, self content kid that I was. Now, this other story came a few years later with my third brother, Albino Chimp. So we were up with riding kind of dirt bikes. It was called the Steps or the Steeps. At the time, we lived in Utah and we were on the Wasatch Front. And so kind of if you kind of go up the mountains a little bit, you don't really go into them, but you just kind of got the face of the mountains that, some people like to ride dirt bikes on. And so my dad was up there riding, and we were up there with him, and he would do a thing where he would put us kind of up on the gas tank and hold on to us and just kind of ride around a little bit and take us on motorcycle rides like that. That was a lot of fun. And so he had been riding for a bit, taking us on rides, and he came back one time, and Albino Chimp, at the time he was like probably maybe only 2 or 3 or so. He was very small. He comes running up to my dad because he's excited to see him, and he takes his hand and slaps it onto the motorcycle engine. Now, if you don't know, motorcycle engines get really, really hot. That's why you have to wear long pants when you ride them. Otherwise, you'll burn your legs on the exposed engine. And my mom couldn't stop him. Stop on my Albino Chimp as he came running up. And my dad, even though he was right there, as soon as he slapped that engine, he swung down and slapped his hand away, but still created just this massive blister and burn on his hand. And so he's screaming and crying, and so we have to get him to like a doctor or hospital. I can't remember what they had to do, because that a little baby touching an engine that hot, it can create some serious damage in your hand and prevent it from functioning properly for the rest of your life. And the blister he had on it, basically his whole palm was swollen and his fingers were sticking just straight out from that. All right, so he couldn't close it up or anything. So they had some ice and put it on it to try and reduce the swelling, and they needed something to wrap it up. Well, Fluffy Head's shirt is too small to properly wrap around it, and certainly Albino's Chimp's shirt is too small to properly wrap around it. And so they take my shirt to wrap around it and hold the ice onto it. And so I have a very weird memory of this incident where we're driving back home, and I'm having to ride in a car without a shirt, and it just feels weird to me with the seatbelt on it and different stuff. I wasn't really with the seatbelt I'm against like my chest and stomach, so it just wasn't something that I was really enjoying. So I trying to find a way to get comfortable, and I think, oh, well, that guy in Jurassic Park was riding the car without a shirt or something like that. I couldn't remember at the time if he had a shirt on or if it was just open, what the deal was. But so I'm just like, well, I'll just pretend that I'm the guy in Jurassic Park riding in a car escaping the T-Rex without a shirt on. And so I tried to do that to get comfortable on the way home, which means that, yes, my whole memory, anytime the story comes up about the time that Albino Chimp touched the hot engine, I have to remember the time I pretended to be Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. So there's and I mean, gosh, it was just a few days ago that we were talking about this, and I told my mom that story, and now everyone's going to know it about 5 or 6-year-old whatever lacking a name pretending to be Jeff Goldblum is. So there you go. There's a fun little kind of history and insight of kind of that incident and how I dealt with it. And I think I came out, well, I don't know if I say I came out the worst for it, but it's certainly a funny story. And I mean, it's like, if you get a good story out of it, how bad can it really be? And Albino Chimp, he's fine. He's just got his hand healed up fine. It works really well. He just has a little scar on his palm now from it. I mean, it's migrated around as he's gotten older. I'm not even sure how visible it still is. I know he listens to these, so I'm sure he'll tell me where the scar is currently at. But yeah, that's just a fun little moment of kind of Fluffy had my mom taking care of him. And I guess kind of, well, it seems kind of like a random story. I guess the point being is that she's a good mom, but you know, kids will be kids, and that will escape you, and they'll do their darnest to find trouble. And just because your kid finds trouble doesn't mean that you're a bad mom. All right, but certainly it's there's times like that it's. You really want to give thanks in your prayers for helping to keep your little kids safe and such with that. So I mentioned my long tongue earlier, and this created issues with my speech. And so I had a very hard time talking when I was little. Still have a hard time now. If you think I'm bad now, boy, I was awful back when I was small. So the speech therapist suggested that I need to spend more time with other kids. And so I went into preschool before kindergarten. So that way I could have more time with kids and learn to speak better and such. And because I went to preschool, Fluffyhead had to do what I did, so he went to preschool. And because Fluffyhead went to preschool, Albino Chimp had to do what Fluffyhead did, so he went to preschool. So by the time my sisters came around, the first sister, the writer, she wanted to go to preschool, but my mom was done with that. She's like, nope, I want time with my babies, so you're not going to preschool. So both the writer and my youngest sister, the koala, didn't go to preschool, so they got to spend more time with mom, which she made sure that our days were always good. Like, we would go to the park. We had a little adventure walk trail, we call it, that we would go on, and it's basically just kind of a walk around the park that zigzagged through some trees. And I don't think I ever really truly crossed this river, but got pretty close to it, that there were a lot of ducks in it and such, and kind of past this built-in waterfall that the city had put in there. And it's kind of hard to describe it if you aren't familiar with a lot of parks that we kind of had grown up in and went to and such. But basically, most parks have a nice clearing or whatnot of the trees, and this was just kind of like a trail, a walking trail that you could go on that zigzagged through the trees and such, and over this little creek and stuff. And so it's just meant to be a bit more of a walking thing. So we called it the Adventure Park, or the Adventure Trail. And so that was just something that we would go on and have a lot of fun doing that. We'd go to, there was this other park that we would go to that had, back in the day, it was sand. I suppose a lot of parks still use sand. Some use wood chips now, but this was just sand on the ground around this playground. And we would do a thing where we would sit in the sand, pile it up around kind of like our legs and such, so that I made a sand diaper, we called it, and then we would scoot around like that, just making long sand diaper trails. And so I don't know how long we do that to entertain ourselves with that, but we do that for a long time. And she was always good about it, us doing that, and didn't complain too much about the sand in her pants. I'm sure that we're wearing them out. I have a very early, I say very early memory. It's not really that early of a memory, but I remember when the first Pokemon movie came out. So like, this would be 1990 something movie. So not the 2001. This was the original Mewtwo one. Burger King had a big Pokemon thing going on where with the toys or whatnot. And so when we went to see the movie, we got Burger King beforehand, so we had our little toys, and I got a Raichu. Little toy that, you pushed a little button and his cheeks lit up. And so we went to the movie, we watched it, and when we were coming out, I noticed that the Raichu toy I had, the lightning bolt on its tail had fallen off and I couldn't find it. And so I was pretty upset and sad about that, because I had just gotten it and it was already broken. And so I can't remember if it was my mom or my dad. Went back into the theater and looked around for it and asked the staff if anyone had seen it, and came back and they didn't have it. So even though it wasn't found, this memory has stuck with me as just one of the earliest examples that I knew that, or I say earliest examples that my parents loved me. And just as I've gotten older, I've just grown more and more appreciative of that. Just a small little thing that didn't matter, that they were willing to go and look for it and ask strangers about it. And that I was worth doing that for. And so that's just something that stuck out to me. Another thing kind of that same line, this happened when we were older. And this one I know involved my mom more directly, but a lot of her friends at the time were getting into teaching. They were going to go get their teacher's license and teach in schools and such, earn a little extra income and such. But my mom decided she didn't want to do that she wanted to be at home for her kids. And just a big difference in our lives that has made, to know that I was always going to come home and that she would be there. And that if I had a bad day, I could talk with her. If I had a good day, I could talk with her. And just the availability that even back then, at the time, it's probably like 6th grade, and it's continuing all the way up through the rest of my schooling, that I knew that her kids were the most important thing in her life, and kind of what that meant to me. That there were no distractions, there's no one else, it was us. And so I am very, very grateful for that, and kind of that feeling. And obviously, very, not sentimental, happy. Sound a bit like I'm tearing up here, that she made that choice for us. I don't know if this is perhaps the greatest testament to her or whatnot, but when I was on my mission, we were out knocking doors, and I knocked on the door of someone, or we accidentally knocked on the door of someone that was a member in our ward, in an apartment complex, and she opens in. She was a new mother, and she was pretty tired. I think like her kid was like maybe only a few days or weeks old at this point. But she looked at me and asked, "How do I get my son to turn out like you?" And I think that that's perhaps one of the greatest testaments to what a good mom my mom has been. That she that other parents can look at her kids and see the positive influence that she's been in their lives and want that for their own. I think I told this woman that be their mom when they're young, and their friend when they're old, and their best friend when they're older. And I don't know if that's the best advice I could have given, but that's just the first one that came to my mind. Is always, I guess now that I'm a little older and can eloquent things slightly better, is always be involved in your kid's life in a positive way. All right, to teach them when they need teaching and to support them when they need support. And likewise, if you're a kid and struggling but looking for a good relationship with your mom, take time to spend with her. It's something that I still try and do and have done with her, I guess, throughout my life. A lot of it started like with adventure walks, but continued as we got older, walking with her and talking about different stories and ideas and things like that I had. Because long before I did Gnosis, before I did Grads, I was in a creative writing class and wrote some stories in there that I would talk with her about, and the characters in them. And so, just take time to make time for your mom. And likewise, if you're a mom or a dad, this doesn't have to be only for moms. And make time for your kids and let them know that they are the most important thing in your life. So I think that's probably where I'm going to end it. I'm going to save some more stories with her for in the future, but I just want to say thank you, Mom, for being so supportive of me, not just with Gnosis but throughout my whole life, and all the great things and memories that you've done for us. I'm sure I don't remember all the things you've done, and I know you don't remember. We both know what your memory's like, and you've self-admittedly it's bad, but you've always been a great mom for us, and I'm sure you're going to be a great grandma for the grand babies. So yeah, I guess closing out here. I'll do the final plug-in for Gnosis. So we have a Patreon, so you can come check that out and get this drawing by signing up and joining. We got a couple different tiers there if you want to help support Gnosis and get some goodies from it. So let's go ahead and thank this month's supporters for Gnosis, which comes from our amazing supporter tiers of my mom, who not only has she supported me throughout my whole life, she's now even supporting me with Gnosis. So that's just a really nice thing for her. Hence why she's just truly wonderful. But yeah, from my mom, from Joanne Reed, and the Animus Seer. Thank you for your support, and I'll keep working hard to make Gnosis worthy of your donation, your support. I feel like I'm saying that word a lot, so maybe I need to look up get the thesaurus out and find some more interesting words. But yeah, thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed these stories, found a little bit of inspiration, and I hope things go great for you. All right, have a good day. Bye.